I help a lot of people because I bring that up and help them see that that's a big block. If you think you should be farther, you're blocking yourself from where you really are, and growth is harder for you to achieve because you have a belief that you're in resistance to where you actually are.
Hello, all you amazing listeners out there. This is the What Went Wrong podcast, and I am your host, Tabatha Thorell. And today I have a very special guest, my dear friend and high-ticket enrollment expert, Sean D. Stewart. He is this amazing coach, speaker, expert that has helped entrepreneurs for over 13 years create profitable businesses. He originally trained with Tony Robbins, and he has helped thousands of people. He electrifies audiences in his live and virtual events, bringing a unique blend of training and edutainment, which I absolutely love because, as you know, I'm high energy. But I don't want to share too much. All right. And I probably overshared, but I love what he does. I love the energy that he brings. And I cannot wait for you guys to listen to his story. Now, with all these accolades and everything that he's accomplished, we all know that it hasn't always been the top of the mountain. So, Sean, I want to ask you, what went wrong?
Thanks so much. Really grateful to be here and spend this time with you. So the thing is that as a coach of entrepreneurs for now 14 years, I've gone through a tremendous amount to get to where I am, to build a business, to create stability. But the truth is that I struggled for so long in really being able to generate the revenue that would create that stability. You know, for me, I come from a background as a rapper, as an artist, spoken word, and I was happy if I could sell a $10 CD at a show back in the day. You know, like I had very different ideas of what it meant to make money when I was in that artist identity. And as I moved into becoming a coach and building a business and doing this entrepreneur track, it was a real long road to rise up into owning my value and charging high ticket fees and starting to experience generating, legit money. And it was a lot of up and down, a very rocky road, if you will. And so, what really went wrong ultimately is that I had a broken money mindset. And it got to a point where over and over again, my money situation in this career where I'm working with clients, whether it's one-on-one or group, I've got a lot of clients throughout. It wasn't ever that I was without clients, but the way that my management of money was, the way that I valued my time, I was always giving tons of time and feeling like on the back end, I didn't have enough stability to feel safe. That's the long story kind of picture of like a person who was here as a success coach to help people be more successful. But the dirty secret in the background was that I knew that I really wasn't successful. I mean, success is relative. And so you could say, yeah, I'm successful compared to the kid who, was happy to sell a $10 CD. But I was not successful in the sense of really being somebody who felt authentically like he is helping people be really successful in their lives as an entrepreneur coach, right? And so there was this secret that I was out of integrity and that I was talking a good game, but really it was a SH show behind the scenes. Not sure if this is a PG show where I can go with it, but it was an SH show. And so what I want to sort of zero in on is what those experiences were like and how many of them were. There were so many of those months and weeks in which I felt like I wasn't sure where the next client was going to come from or where I was going to come up with the money I needed in order to be stable. And I have 2 kids, and my wife and I have been together for about 12 years. So, she's relied on me as the primary breadwinner that entire time. And especially since we had kids 7 years ago, the pressure really ratcheted up. And, this long story of being stuck inside of my money mindset issues and coming up against it. And so what really happened ultimately is that I got to the point multiple times every year for, the first 7-8 years of business where I would be seeking some type of job. It was very behind the scenes. On the front side, I showed up as a coach, and people saw me who were in my environment as a successful coach, because that's, what we put out there on social media or whatever. We uphold that identity or that viewpoint. But behind the scenes, I was looking for ways that I could work for other coaches and stabilize my revenue by doing sales for this person, or, looking for additional revenue streams. And so there was one time where I worked for this coach. He was very successful. I was grateful that I got the job to do sales for him. But deep down, I was crushed because I really wanted my own business to be successful. And I felt like I should be there. And I didn't want to believe that I had to go and work for somebody else who was there. But I swallowed my pride and I went and worked for this guy. And it was a learning experience. And I ended up doing pretty well selling for him. But my money situation was horrendous. In fact, when I was finally accepted to work for him, I'll never forget. I was in Los Angeles. I was with my brother, and I literally had zero money in my bank account. And I had just gotten this opportunity with this guy. And my brother actually gave me $100 bill. We were together. And it was like, I was so grateful that my brother would help me. But I remember noticing at that time, because I'd never gone completely to zero. I'd always my money situation had been like right above the line, just enough. But I got to this point where I literally didn't have enough. And it was an interesting time, because I was like, I even asked my brother, I said, what does somebody do? Like, is it possible that you could have no money? You could actually go under? Because I knew it was like, logically, I could see it was possible. I had never personally had that experience. I'd always finding a way to get through. But at this point, I'd literally hit rock bottom. And so, my brother was grateful. I was grateful to him to be supportive, and he kind of helped me out for a couple of weeks. But he was, helping me to rethink my perspective and to start to see myself as, this is a great opportunity. You have some people who are going to support you, and you want to look at this as like, how can you make sure you never go back here?
Yeah.
So it was just extremely painful. I remember being on a street corner outside of my apartment talking to my dad, because the truth was I hated working for this guy. Like, it wasn't that he was a horrible boss, but he was a boss. And I didn't get into entrepreneurship to have somebody telling me where I needed to be. I needed to be on these calls. My hours were not my own. I had to go and to trips to his events. I had to prioritize my entire life around him and his schedule. And I just really didn't enjoy that experience. And not only that, but I wasn't making that much money. And for those of you that have ever done sales or jumped on working with other people, you'll know that it's okay. I mean, you can do well if the company's crushing it and you have, like, if you're doing calls all the time. And this was a situation where the calls were frequent and infrequent. It was sort of up and down. And the commissions were sometimes like, I could sell a massive package for this guy, $30,000 plus package, and he'd give me like 2.5%. Like, he had these things where it was like, the higher the package, the lower the percentage. And so I would get these huge sales for him. I mean, I ended up bringing in over $250,000 for this guy in a 90-day period. I don't think I made more than 10 grand. Like, it was like not like a lot of money coming to me for that. And so I was starting to feel resentful, and I ended up having a call with the guy, and I said, look, I really don't understand. Like, I'm your most successful salesperson. I've crushed your free over the last 3 months, and I really think you should increase the percentage. And he goes, hey man, I appreciate that, but I'm just, from everything you're telling me, it really just sounds like, you're the kind of person that doesn't work well in like a job environment, and you should just continue on your entrepreneur path, and we should cut ties. And it was actually a very good thing, because I wanted out. But again, I was back on this, okay, now what am I going to do? Yeah. So this is one experience, but what I want to say is that it got bad many times after that. Never did I go back to zero like that, but it got so bad that I just had all these moments where I would be holding in the pain of this dark feeling like I wasn't going to be able to survive in this business. And I would hide it from my wife, because I didn't want to bring that energy to her. In fact, anytime I would bring that energy to her, she would feel it. She's very sensitive. She would get depressed. And I would feel like it would double in intensity. It would triple. It was like there was no relief from the pain. It would just go worse because of the fact that I let the people that, were counting on me know that I was going there. So then I was like, I can't share it. So here I am, like for years, really like, yeah, I had some good months. Yeah, I had some good things happen, but ultimately it was like back to the problem. So that's really my, like almost a decade in the coaching industry, somebody who has always put out there, that I'm successful, and somebody who has always, wanted people to believe that I was something. But deep down, I had this dark secret, and it was just this albatross that I carried with me everywhere I went for a long, long time.
Well, I think, thank you so much, because I love that you went deep, because I feel like so many people who are listening today, especially if you're a coach, you kind of feel like you have to be the facade because otherwise no one's going to buy from you. So it's like, it's a catch-22. If you're too real, then people are like, well, I don't want to learn from the success coach because he doesn't even look successful. And in reality, like you said, success is relative. So if you only look at it as monetary, then, you're always going to feel like there's more or there's less or, whatever. But I took a few notes, like what you said is the identity piece. And I think that's so true, because when we miss our mark, when we don't feel successful, then we are taking on this identity of, am I being authentic? Am I being real enough? Am I in integrity enough? Instead of like switching that and like, I am a successful coach, I just need to find this way. I need to switch this path, or, getting it out. And it's not necessarily just words of affirmation, but really truly putting on that identity every single day. So I love that you touched on that, the rocky road of a decade. So for some people right now, they might be wanting to give in the towel because they're like, I've been doing this for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And you know what? It's like, look at Sean, like a decade of this, like up and down, but still knowing in his heart that he was an entrepreneur, taking that job and doing that thing, and that realizing even more solidified, like he wants to be an entrepreneur. And that identity, I think going through that, the what went wrong, it probably solidified your identity of an entrepreneur, because at some point when you're an entrepreneur and you're failing miserably, you start to think, did I pick the wrong identity? Did I put that on wrong? Because I don't seem to making it work here. But when we figure out what we don't want, sometimes that leads us to what, we do want. So I thank you so much for sharing that. And what you said about, I should be there, I feel like that speaks to so many people. Like, I should be there already. I should have that money. I should have that success. And those shoulds, like you're shoulding all over yourself, like that is what's going to hold you back more than where I'm at right now is where I'm at. Like, this is for a reason. It's for me, not against me. And that's like propelling you forward. And the last thing was holding on to that emotion. I think so many people, we keep everything in because of that facade. We don't want other people to necessarily see the ugly or what we think is ugly. And, being emotional can be very vulnerable. And so I love that part of your story. So that decade happened. And then what? Like, was there a moment that it kind of started turning around? And what kept you going through those 10 years? Because that's a significant amount of time. And were there anything specific that you would like say or do or reach out to that would help you along the way?
Yeah. So what kept me going was two things: my mission to do what I'm here to do on this planet, which has always been my core driver. And I'm all about actualization. I want to help people actualize their most, their most inspired life, if you will, in this lifetime. So it's to me about living my life with no regrets and being a role model of living the true vision of what I'm here for. And then that was always a core driver. So no matter what I went through, I always knew that it was leading me to that, as hard as things were. The other thing that kept me there was really a feeling of being trapped, to be honest, that I had no choice, because the options were what? I hated jobs. I couldn't work for somebody. And then this entrepreneurial track was very unsteady, but it was always better than going and working a job. So it was like there was nowhere to go. It was one or the other. And so figure it out was pretty much the only option, because I just don't have it in me to and I'm a team player, but I'm not interested in having being an employee of any sort. So I just don't work well that way. So that trap, as much as it's not a good thing, it kept me there. And I've worked through that. But the other thing, and the more inspiring thing, is really that I had a vision that was knowing that everything was happening for me, like you're saying, and that this was part of a story I would one day tell. Like there's always that, like when you go through something challenging, you're like, well, at least I know that I can tell somebody about something hard that they might have also gone through, that I can be showing them that it's okay. There's a shining light on the other side. So here we are with that story. But
well, then it kind of drives you to get to that shining light. Like, I have to make this positive so that I can share this story one day. Otherwise, it's just a sad story, right? It's like it pushes you for that success.
Yeah, exactly. And the truth is, there was a lot of successes in there. And like you were saying, I mean, success is relative. We compare ourselves to what we see. Somebody says they're making $1 billion every second, or whatever the newest thing is that everybody latches onto. It's like the only thing that counts. And you say, well, I'm a failure compared to that. But the truth is that I was able to maintain an entrepreneurial business and actually provide for my family for, now 14 years, a decade in that timeline. And, that has to come with, there's successes in there. There's patience in there. There's always paying, rent, and always having a place to stay or whatever. I mean, there's legitimate like things, right? So, I am proud of who I've become as a result of that. And the truth is that I'm grateful for everything that I went through, because it is all part of the DNA of who I am at this point, and how I bring the value and the fire and the energy to people. The truth is, Tabatha, that I grew up in a very privileged environment as a kid. So I come from basically like a spoiled rich kid background. I'll just call myself out. Like that's who I grew up in Malibu. I grew up in Santa Monica. Like my dad's an Academy nominated screenwriter. I was wearing like Gerbo jeans as like a 10-year-old. I have these pictures. I don't even think Gerbo exists anymore. A very high-end jean company. Anyway, so like for me to go through, it gave me a lot of compassion and understanding for what people go through who actually struggle in life. Because the truth is that I was given a really beautiful path, but my business experience and being a man, it took me into the depths of the pain that people go through. And I think in a lot of ways, it's made me a lot more understanding, compassionate, and have the ability to speak to people of all experiences, not just those with my background. People can feel that I am legitimately somebody that knows what it's like to get to the rock bottoms around shit, especially money, and be able to rise past it. So I have something of value to help anybody at any level where they're at. So I think that's one really important thing to say before we talk about what has happened since then,
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. I just heard today, TD Jakes said, if you're finally coming up into what you're called to do, like you're finally seeing, the reaps of your struggle, just know that the struggle's not going away. It's coming up just alongside you, like the evil, the whatever comes against you, because whatever your belief system is, it's like just knowing that almost like ignites me, because it's like, how many times have you felt like, okay, it's finally happening, and then like, the roof leaks, or you and your spouse or your significant other have a big fight, or your kids have a tantrum. It's like just knowing that and being aware of that. It's like, no, but I keep going because this is my calling. This is what I'm meant to do. And when great things happen and are emerging, the opposite force is also going to emerge. And it's like building that tenacity to be like, this is, and it sounds like for you to build that tenacity was that 10 years, because you hadn't built that before, and it would have crushed you. Right. Like it would have crushed you for sure. So like, I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. Tell us where you're at now. And
yeah. So what happened was that in 2020, we had the pandemic. Actually, at the same time, we sold our house. At that point, we had bought a house a couple years prior that, truthfully, our parents helped us with. And in 2020, we decided to sell that house, and it created a little bit of a financial cushion that we'd never seen before. And it gave me some time to rest for a second because I had been in this crisis mode for so many years and so back against the wall. I'd never been able to like rest. So I took some time away from coaching and I really started to look at where my mindset was. Like I'd always been into personal growth and spirituality to like an immense degree my whole career. My whole life since I was like 8 years old, I was studying Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, and things like that. So I have had a really deep background in spirituality. But you remember how we were talking about earlier, that I should be farther than I am, that whole idea. And you mentioned that. And I think that's so critical. I help a lot of people because I bring that up and help them see that that's a big block. If you think you should be farther, you're blocking yourself from where you really are. And growth is harder for you to achieve because you have a belief that you're in resistance to where you actually are. So during that 2020 time frame, I took a little time off. I actually gave myself the gift of acknowledging where I had been for those years, that I wasn't where I wanted to be financially. Instead of putting on the facade and acting like the successful coach so that I could get clients and playing that whole game, I decided to really honor the fact that I clearly had some gaps in my spiritual or money mindset understanding, and I needed to go and clean up those gaps. I needed to find where they were, and I needed to rebolster them and fix them. So I dove much deeper into personal growth and mindset and money mindset than ever before. And I really came from the beginner's mind. I decided, no, it's not that I should be farther. I am where exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I decided to become the beginner's mind again and really look at my growth as like starting then, even though I was already 10 years in. I'm like, I'm starting now with my mindset really. And so through really deep diving in that and then starting to look at reading these texts and books around prosperity and mindset, I started to realize that there were things that I had previously like kind of disregarded or didn't acknowledge as valuable that they were said in these books. And I was like, why am I thinking I'm smarter than these teachers of this? So I was like, I have this ego about I think this and this is wrong. And I started saying, no, they're right. Let me buy into their thing. So I started seeing, and once I started seeing, just as an example, I used to be like, it doesn't make sense to me why they say that you shouldn't, in setting like money goals, have it be like you want it to come from one particular place. Because I'm like, I want to be specific. I'm going to make 100,000 for my coaching, but the prosperity says that you shouldn't tell the universe a single direction because you're cutting off other ways that money can come. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. So I was in disagreement with it. And I was like, no, stop. Believe it. And I was like, okay, so listen to it. Maybe I'm blocking ways that money is coming. And so just as an example of various moments where I started to like stop my old way of thinking and open up to new ways of seeing and learning about money. And then this one passage hit me. And it's from the Abundance book by John Randolph Price, I think his name is. And it basically says every person has to come to a point where they get out of thinking that money is a material plane topic, and they stop looking at their bills and their bank and what they have and what they can count and what's physical and visual, and have to go and remember that it's actually in the source of who you are. It's an invisible, intangible source. Your abundance is not a physical thing. It's who you are and it's your nature, and you can never be without it. But if you focus on the outcome, meaning the money, the green stuff, and not on the origin of the outcome, you can't ever get to the place where you are abundant physically because you're like focusing on the printout instead of the source. And it's like every day that you go back to thinking that it's about the material plane, you will go back to the drawing board or have to go back to school again and relearn the lesson over and over again until you get it. And I said, I'm going to stop relearning this lesson. I'm going to get it. And so I started to practice living where I knew that abundance was and doing meditations and work around honoring that I have the natural abundance inside of me. We all do, but I just have to recognize that source and know that it's there and see it for what it is and thank it and be grateful for it and really bring it in my life and charge it up. And then every problem that I started to experience around money started to become easy because I realized that it was all taking me back to the schoolroom. And once I went back to schoolroom, I said, remember the lesson, abundance is inside. And I got back to it. And then my money started to just pop and everything started to change from there. And my business became way stabilized, like to the point where we're at now, where, you know, we have significant savings, where we have put all kinds of new structures in place around how we track money, how we manage money in the business, how, you know, what we charge for our services, a variety of things that have created structures. We had our best year in 2023. We 3x the revenue of our best year. And, you know, it was a breakthrough year. And I was experiencing true stability and true abundance at a level that, you know, I'd never. But the best part about it was that it wasn't coming from a place of hoping that it would stay or feeling like insecure that it might go away. It was coming from a place of knowing that I chose it and that I always can choose it and that it's completely up to me. And as I rise up more and more in terms of my stability, my money management, my ability to save, invest, create true wealth, which is the path that I'm on, I'm in a position now where, like, I just know that it's just about my mind. It's just about what I choose. And it's just about the habits and practices that I put in place. And this is more exciting to me than almost anything that I teach at this point, because, like, it's so impactful. And, like, I teach all kinds of stuff about getting clients from stages and all kinds of things that are very practical, how to grow business stuff. And there's nothing that's been more effective than just going back to the centerpiece of this mindset and fixing that at the source, and then having all these external structures work on top.
I totally 100% agree with that so much. I think I just did a podcast with another gal and I said, the only thing that will limit you is here. And when people have a scarcity mindset, guess what? They go into scarcity and then they hold on to stuff. And then especially with money, when people have an understanding of the reason why we're going through this recession right now is because when people are scared, they don't spend. So the people who would normally eat out, they're like, oh my gosh, I got to save, I got to save, I got to save. So then that business owner that where they would usually go out to eat, their sales go down. So then guess what they have to do? Then they don't get to go and spend, you know, where they were because they're scarce. So the scarcity domino goes that way. Now, I'm not saying go above your means and go just blow your money. Be aware of it. Like you said, manage it and be mindful of that. But it's a center of who you are. And you know, I'm a mom of 5, so we're abundant in my household. We got abundant of emotion. We got abundant loud. We got it. So anytime I find myself feeling like, oh, I can't handle this, I put a block up. And I'm like, how, if I say I can't handle this, how can I reverse that and think I am an abundant thinker? How can I, you know, whether it's with money or kids or emotion or relationships, when I put that block up, that's me putting a block up. And, you know, whatever your belief system is, for me, I'm like, my creator's not going to give me something that's going to crush me. So if I say I can't handle it, then he's going to stop that floodgate. But when I have this abundant mindset of like, I'll find a way, I will find a way to serve my clients at the highest level. I will find a way to be a mom to my 5 kids, you know, with kindness and love and being engaging in them. And so it's just opening the floodgates of that abundance. So I love, love, love that you shared that, because I feel like so many entrepreneurs, we're just in the midst of it. And it's like, we do get in that scarcity mindset because if we're not making the money, then we think, oh, I got to be scarce here. When it's really about when you give it out, then you see it flow back in. And it's definitely mindset. It's definitely how you flow out that. So I love that you have received that, and you I know that you're going to teach it more in 2024 if this is having such an impact on your life. And that's going to have an impact on our society, on our world, which I feel like, looking at it beyond just prosperity of money, I think when people hear that, they just automatically feel like, oh, you just want more money. And it's really not about that. Money, green money is just a tangible thing. It's what you put on it and how you live your life of that. And so we could do a whole podcast on that for sure. But I want to thank you so much, Sean. I love you. We're great friends. I can't wait to see what 2024 does to you. Guys, check him out on YouTube. Like, he is such an amazing rapper. He has such a way with words. He's very electrifying. Now, I know they can catch you up on YouTube. Is there anywhere else or anything that you have coming up that you want to share with this podcast?
Yeah, well, one of the other things is you can go to rockyourgift.com and you can learn more about us and check out some of the things we do. Yeah. And I'm always welcome an email. If you want to just email me at info@rockyourgift.com, that'll go directly to me. It's info@rockyourgift.com. And if you want some more on this mindset stuff, I actually have a program that we just launched that's called Identity Breakthrough, and it really goes deep on this. And if you're interested, just go ahead and email me. I can share more, or, let you know about some other free resources that could support you around that topic or anything else that inspired you today. So yeah, again, info@rockyourgift.com, or just go to rockyourgift.com and check
Okay.
out.
And I'll put all this in the show notes too, guys. So like if you're driving and listening to this, just go pull over, look him up, go on there. Like I said, check out his rapping. It's amazing anyway. And yes, like anything that he has of value, go to rockyourgift.com. I just want to thank you so much, Sean, for taking the time and being so vulnerable and going deep on your story. And I just want to remind our listeners that wherever you're at on your journey, especially if you're somewhere where you're just needing a little hope and something is going wrong, always remember that what went wrong will lead to what went right if you just go at it with persistence and tenacity and dedication. And we are all here for you. But until the next episode, bye for now.